Yes.
Don't confuse me. You guys hear me?
Yes.
People on the phone?
Yes. You're audible.
Cool. Yeah. अगर आपको स्क्रीन में कोई लैग या कुछ लगे तो डू स्टॉप मी, ठीक है? मे बी आई विल बी इन द रिदम, सो मुझे पता नहीं चलेगा कि कुछ मिस हो रहा है, बट इफ यू थिंक जस्ट शाउट इट आउट, क्योंकि मैंने वो चैट बैट सब डिसेबल करके रखा है, सो मुझे दिखेगा नहीं कुछ अगर आप टाइप कर रहे हो, बट डू लेट मी नो, ठीक है?
Okay.
Cool. Good morning. We are going to talk about Leprechaun today. So I think it's a very fascinating topic. Before a few months also, I was also kind of pretty much new to this. But I think as we evolve and as we go in the headless, programming and stuff, I think this will become mandatory. Initially, when this term came into my mind, I thought, it's not for me. It's something else. Leprechaun. What does it mean? I don't know. But then I eventually knew that, I can't live without that. I need to learn it to be able to. And front end guys will know it more, because that's where currently it is being used. It can also be used. Okay, I'll jump into the presentation and then we'll talk about everything so that we can connect the dots. But yeah, this is pronounced as leprechaun because of its spelling. Sometimes it is called as a leprechaun, but it's leprechaun. You can call it. Leprechaun is like developed by a developer called Ben Lapson. He is the developer of this tool. I got a chance to talk to him like 2-3 times because I saw some bugs and I contacted him, and then he was good to get back to me, and then we went on a call and then we discussed a lot of things about future, what is coming in the future and stuff. But he's a developer, so basically Leprechaun is, that's what we'll talk about. We'll talk about basics of what is Leprechaun, why it is used, why you should be concerned about Leprechaun as a developer, as a front end or back end. So we'll see also two aspects of it, from front end side, from back end side. And then we'll also see how Leprechaun does what it does, what runs behind the scene that it is able to do what it is doing, right? And what flexibility it has for the developer. And we'll also see how much you should know at least to get started with the Leprechaun. Then I will also show you a small demo where yesterday I configured one app just for this demo where I can show you, how Leprechaun can be configured and what happens when you run the Leprechaun command and what kind of model gets generated and where should we use it, so that you can see the practical scenario of that as well. And if you have any question answer, we can take that last. But yeah, in simple term, it's a code generator. So Leprechaun, wherever you have a need of a generating a code, Leprechaun will be used. So the people who are new, they might not know, but the people who already work with GlassMapper, right? TDS and GlassMapper. We used to use a code generator. Like the need was that you have a Visual Studio, you configure those T4 templates to let it know that, hey, these are the templates you will use to generate this kind of code or model. What Leprechaun does differently is that it doesn't have any dependency in Visual Studio. So you don't need a Visual Studio, you can run it, and it just needs some configuration and some files or some templates on file system, and then it can do the rest for you. So that is the power of it. Second thing is you can create your own, because it's Leprechaun is just a big string builder. So the template is a big string builder. You can configure your template to generate your customized class. So for instance, there are out-of-the-box code generator already available with Leprechaun, like Synthesis, right? And then GlassMapper as well. But consider in our scenario, we want to generate, because we work in TypeScript, right? I want to generate a model which is of TypeScript. So I can write a code there, and then it will generate a model for my front-end app for React TypeScript.ts file. It will have all the model. The properties that you define in sidecore and template, they will be converted into model and be ready to be used in front end. So when you create a React app, you define some props, right? So all the props are hard coded currently. So like field of string and field of this. So all those things can be made dynamic. It will read from the configuration that you do in the config file, and then it will generate the full model for you. So the benefit is, so yeah, let's talk little. I'll talk about why and how later. But let's first just give you the brief of what is Leprechaun. So Leprechaun is an OpenAI code generator, as we talked, for sitecore content serialized or from Unicom serialized items. I hope you already had sitecore CLI session, right? Where we generated the module, we created modules, and then based on that, if you do a .NET sitecore pull push, it was able to get the YAML files serialized into your disk. So Leprechaun targets those YAML files only. It doesn't need Sitecore or Visual Studio, nothing. If you have everything serialized, then if you run the Leprechaun command, it will read those and then it will generate a model for you. It can also be run at build time. So majority of the scenario, what we generally do is in our project file, we have build events, right? So what we instruct our Visual Studio is to run Leprechaun command at the build time. So when you're actually building the project, at that time only it will create a model for you, and then you can check in this model, and then they are ready to be used. If you don't want to include that as a part of build, you can run it manually from the command line, and it will do the same for you. It depends on how you want to use it. And as I said, it doesn't require Visual Studio. Even if it's not there, you can still use it. So why we should be, talking about Leprechaun? As I mentioned, from just like traditional code generators, like we talked T4 generator and Glassmapper, they all needed a specific template, T4 templates, and you need to map it that hey, generate like this. And then you needed Visual Studio. It's must to do those configuration. Here, it's really flexible. It uses Roslyn library from Microsoft, which generates the code for you. You can customize it. You can write your own code generator module. It's a C# syntax, so you can write a model in a way that it will create a big string builder, and then ultimately those string builder will be converted into a model. It's Helix friendly. So everyone know, right? What is Helix feature project foundation? So Helix friendly means that if you have your model the serialization modules configured in a Helix way, so consider a scenario where in your sitecode tree under templates, we have layer that is feature, foundation, and project, and then we have module. Module means your site name, right? So feature, you have something like, hey, demo training, that's a site or module. Inside that, if you have component or templates, you can target that particular path because you have serialized in such a manner that your folder structure will be like that. And then there is a specific syntax. We will talk about that. If you skip that, it will not work. There are a lot of gochas, small gochas. We will also talk about that. But if you configure a layer and module, it will automatically target those modules and generate your code according to that. So it's a Helix friendly. And as I said, you can create your own code generator. If you want something else tomorrow, then you can generate a code for you also in that way. So you can think of all the scenarios. Currently, I just gave you the TypeScript example because TypeScript we are going to use a lot in a React app, and then because we know that props are how to make them dynamic, right? How to make them like loosely coupled. That is one of the example. I can generate a code for it, and then it will be reused. You can also think about something else. What if we are using Sitecore, what else can be doable, and that whole thing you can do it from here. If you want to generate a class on build for some purpose, you can do that. Now let's talk about why like how Leprechaun does what it does. What is the process behind the scene? So some of the topics we already touched upon. So previously, we used T4 templates, TDS Glassmapper. Currently, we don't need that because the dependency on the Visual Studio is no more. So I think it's that's how it's efficient and powerful. It uses Roslyn code generation. It's a altogether different topic, but you can read about what is the Roslyn code generation. It's a C# based APIs where you can write them and then create your own string builder, which will generate the class. So currently, I think across all the horizontal project, we are using JSS script.csx file, right? Which is a custom code generator written by one of the developer called David Lee. So I think all credit goes to him. Because I'm going to show that in the demo, that file. So I want to mention that that file is created by David Lee from USA, and that is capable of generating TypeScript model for us. Do not require Visual Studio, yeah, and runs at the build time and manually too. As I said, you can write it in the build event. It's a simple configuration that you can put in your build event or in your WPP target.wpp target files, which runs on the build. When you right click and the build your project, it will also run this Leprechaun, and it will, as per the instruction, it will generate the desired models on the specific path. Reads all module files and creates model out of it. Yeah, that's how it works. So basically, it runs on your model YAML files. So it targets, it searches for all the module file. It looks into the YAML file, and then depending on the YAML file, whatever the code or like YAML file is, it generates the same code in the model in the desired directory that you specify. So it boils down to 6-step process. This is what I kind of high level defined it. So what you do is first and foremost is you install Leprechaun CLI, right? So just like sidecore serialization module that you do, there is a command of installing Leprechaun as well. You install that. That's a one-line command. .NET, install Leprechaun CLI, and then whatever the directory you are in, it will install the Leprechaun. When you say install Leprechaun, that means it will update your .config folder and your .NET tools.json file where your sidecore serialization entry is also there. And below that, it will also configure Leprechaun that, hey, Leprechaun is installed. That is the kind of stamp that it is installed. Fine. Also, of course, you will get the messages as well that Leprechaun was installed. I'll show you that. Then second step is you update your module JSON file so Leprechaun can generate the code for them. So what that means, it has a dependency on sidecore CLI. So if you want to generate something, right, you need some source, right? And depending on that, you can generate the file. So source is sidecore CLI generated YAML files. So what happens is that you have a sidecore. If I talk in a context of sidecore, you have a sidecore. Then what you do is you have templates and components and data templates and stuff. Then you run .NET Leprechaun, install it, and then you run the sidecore CLI. You do .NET sidecore.NET pull, right? So it pulls from sidecore. It kind of puts it on your disk. It serializes on the disk, and then when you run Leprechaun, what it does is, because now it doesn't need connection with sidecore, right? It doesn't need connection with Visual Studio. It is now independent entity. It has everything on your disk. So now it will target the YAML files. But for that, you will need some configuration to be done that, hey, target on this path. My module files are on this path. Generate the code on this directory. Target the helix structure. All this instruction you write in the config file, and then you run command saying, hey, generate like Leprechaun generate /c in your path. It will automatically generate those particular files on your disk. This is how it runs. So this is what I've written here. So install Leprechaun, update module JSON, give code gen files. So this is important step is because when you are actually generating the model, it also needs, what kind of code generation I should be using, right? Either it should be my custom, either it should be readily available. There are 4 or 5 types of CSX file available already in the repository of the Leprechaun, which is open source. You can download them and use it, or you use your custom, but it has to be in some specific directory where you can tell Leprechaun that, hey, this is my code generation file. When I run the command, target this directory because my code generation template is there, and then it will automatically use that and generate your files. Leprechaun config. So this is also important because all the configuration, all the instruction to the Leprechaun tool are stored in Leprechaun config file. So it is on the same level. Everything should be on the same level. So your sidecore JSON, your leprechaun.config, and your .config folder, all those 3, no matter where you put, it should be on the same level because the paths are relative. I will show you how it all works. But yeah, you will also need leprechaun.config file. So leprechaun.config file is a template file, so you can download it from the repo. It has a very specific template. It has XML structure. You don't change anything like much in the config file. There are 3 to 4 changes that you make in the template, and then you're good to go. You can reuse the same config, put it in your repo, and then you do 3, 4 changes, and then you should be good to go. And add Leprechaun to run on the build event. So there is a configuration node which you can put, so it will also start running on your project build. Now, generally, what happens is that what I have faced is that generally we put directly on the build event, and then when we build, suddenly it starts giving you the error, and then. So what is the best practice is that when you configure for Leprechaun everything, you should first run it manually without putting in the build events. Because then if you have any configuration error, or if you're getting some generic error, then you could resolve them and then put it on the build. Otherwise, you will lose the context, and then you will start looking at something else which is not part of your troubleshooting. So let the build run individually so that you can isolate 2 things. Run Leprechaun, make sure that everything works. Your configuration is fine. It is able to generate the model. And then you can include that into your build events. So this is how the execution works. Just to simplify, what I've done is I've kind of put that in the flowchart. So, it is, we can memorize it a little better than, speaking or looking at the theory. So what you do is you run the .NET Leprechaun C and pass to a Leprechaun config file. So this is after installing. So you have installed the Leprechaun, right? And then now you are ready to generate the model or code for you. So what you do is you run .NET Leprechaun/C and your path. So what it will do is the moment it executes this command, first it looks for the your leprechaun.config file. Then it starts reading from the top saying, hey, what is the configuration for my module? So import path is the module path. So that means what is my module's path? So it will, if your module path is wrong, then it will straight away give error saying, hey, I'm unable to find any module which I can generate a class for. So that means you clearly know that, okay, something is wrong there. You can fix that. Then what you do is, then it finds the configuration with the same name in the module.json files, as I said. If everything works, then there is a templates node. So what it does is templates node targets 2 kinds of path. One is you give static path saying, hey, your C drive / something, and then tell it to target the templates from that. Or you can use a helix pattern. That means layer.module. Layer means either your feature, either your foundation or project, and module means just like if you worked on SXA, when you right click on this system node and feature and right click say add module, right, you give a module name. This is the same module name it is using. So when you because when you create that module, that means if you create on the consider if you have a feature folder under your site code, right, and then you say, hey, create a module. So what it does is wherever your media library templates, renderings, wherever you have feature, it will also give you the folder called module of your either site or whatever name that you give. So Leprechaun also targets that. So not the site code, but when you do a site code serialization, so it serializes in the same fashion. It has the layer, so that means it has a feature folder, a feature foundation or project, whatever, and then your module folder, and then all the templates, YAML files will be residing inside that. So in the Leprechaun config, when you define that layer.module, it will also know that, okay, in my folder structure, there is a specific folder that I need to target. And that particular folder is also like name also is configurable in the JSON file. I'll show you that. And then what it does is read the code gen file used by given path. Now, what it does is it found the YAML file. It found that, okay, found the configuration out of which YAML file I need to read or generate a code for. But now I need a tool, like I need a template to generate the code. I have the source, but now I need a template using which I can generate the code and put it on the destination. Now, the last step is once it finds the code generation for it, what it does is it generates the file in the destination folder, and that's it. The Leprechaun's work is done. Then now it is up to developer how to utilize that particular generated code file. So some of the things to take care while you are trying to configure Leprechaun, parts of the module.json in the leprechaun.config, as I mentioned. So if you have used sidecore serialization in sidecore.json also, there is a first line of the path, right? Where your modules are located. So if they're nested under directory, that is fine. It is flexible. You can give generate code on any path, but you have to make sure that the path that you are giving is correct, like /star/star and then star.module.json. Or if it's on the same level, you can just write star.module.json. You have to do trial and error to make sure that which path is working for you. If you don't know the syntax, then pass of the templates in the template predicate. So as I said, if you are using Helix, it is very important to know this because your name of the module needs to match with the configuration of Leprechaun. If that doesn't match, what it will come up with the error saying, hey, I found the configuration of the Leprechaun, but I was not able to generate any model. So that means there is something wrong in the name configuration that it is not able to find. Then there is an @extends, syntax. I will show you how to, where it is. But that name should match exactly with the configuration name given in the leprechaun.config. So what it does is, out of inside core serialization, you have different JSON file, right? Module.json files. So you have to open one of the module.json files for which you want to generate the code and put 4 or 5 lines of Leprechaun configuration saying, hey, for this module, I want to generate a code. For this module, I want to generate a code. If you don't have those lines, Leprechaun will run, but it will not do anything because it is able to find your module.json files, but there is no instruction to generate a code for it. So over there is an extend and name keyword that you write specifically. So what it does is extend should match the configuration name of your leprechaun.config file. And then @name should match the actual path of your physical disk. So that means if you have feature foundation project folder, and inside that, if you have considered a demo folder, and then inside that you have your YML file, then you actually have to write feature.demo foundation.demo. That means it is following the Helix structure and it will be able to generate a code for you. So there are some small and minor, gochas there. If you don't do that, then you will end up in the loop because this configuration is very small configuration lying in some of the files, then you won't be able to find it. So that's why it is good to take care of it from the start itself. Because I personally and we personally have faced this issue where you spend half a day, but it's still not generating a model and you don't know why it is not. But then majority of time it's a configuration error. You change the name from this and that, and then you're fine. So I'll move to the question later. First, I will show you some of the things which I talked. Up till now, if anybody has any question or anything, or should I continue? You don't put the Leprechaun config there, and it will not generate a model.
That is manual task. Each and every module need to go and add those palettes. What I understood is we configure Leprechaun config at once, and it will go for every module.json, and it will find that paths from local file structure, and it will create the models.
No, it will. That is correct. It will file all the module file, but it will also look for the instruction into that module. That which do I need to follow the Helix structure? Where is my template? Because you can have multiple config leprechaun.config file as well. If you want to consider your data folders class differently, your templates class differently, then you will have a multiple leprechaun config, right? So leprechaun config will target all the JSON files, but then it will look for the instruction in the leprechaun that, hey, which configuration I should map to? If config, which configuration I should map to, and which layer.module structure I should map to. If it doesn't find this particular configuration, it will skip that particular module.json. And if you haven't written those lines, nothing will be generated because it to generate a model, it needs that instruction in the module.json file itself.
configure?
Yeah. So generally best practice is generally we generate a model for templates, right? Because front end needs templates, data source templates, so they can write props for it. So generally modules file are designed in such a way that your templates are always under either foundation, and then it has only one module.json file. So in module.json file, you write that instruction and then it will start generating models for that. Not clear? Clear? Confused? Yeah, I'll show you. Okay. So if you see this, what I have done is, yeah. Not yet. Are you able to see the screen, guys? Folder structure? People on the phone?
Yes, yes.
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 Okay. So I'm not taking the example of the actual project now. I will move to that later. What I wanted to show is what are the minimum things that you should see when you configure Leprechaun. These are the bare minimum folder structure or the file that you should have to be able to run Leprechaun perfectly, right? So first thing is what you do is you install the Leprechaun, right? So as I said, there is a command. So see all the errors I run into, right? Diagram. So if you see this command .NET tool install, and you can see the paths, right? I'm in the C the Next.js demo. Oh. I think people on the phone are good, but we are seeing the screen now. Yeah. Yeah. So you see this command, right? .NET tool install no cache and Leprechaun CLI. This is the single command that you will run in the life cycle of Leprechaun. Either you uninstall it, you install it, or you update it. But either you don't do a .NET install or you do a .NET install update. That's it. I think you will only run two commands in the lifetime. One is install and one is to generate the model. That is, sitecore.NET Leprechaun and then the path. That's it. Everything else is a configuration game. So the moment you do this, you'll be greeted with this particular green message saying, "Hey, Leprechaun was installed successfully." Whatever the version, it automatically grabs the latest version from the release branch of Leprechaun. So once I moved here, so what I did was I installed that in the demo folder, which is just coming on the way. People on the phone, why I'm like taking a pause is because here on the TV it is lagging so much. That's why. So here is the config it generated. This is not a like something new. You will also find this config in your project because you install Sitecore CLI, it will also generate the same config. Now, if I open this, because I did not install Sitecore CLI because I'm not concerned for it right now because I have the YAML files which I copied manually because I'm concerned with YAML file because I want to show you that without all the dependency, it is still able to generate the model. So this is the instruction it put in. So now I'm sure that now it is installed. I'm safe to close this. Then I again go to the demo folder. Then this. I'll go back to the demo folder again. Yeah. Now you see backend and front end folder. Now this is also created by me manually. So in our day-to-day project, generally what we do is because now front end and back end are kind of working tightly together. We have one repo and everybody is working in that. So now backend is something where I have my template, I have my site code serialization modules, I have some other checked in stuff related to front end, I have my project file, solution, whatnot. In front end, I have my React app, right? My JSS app. You can consider it the JSS app where all my component and all my stuff are there. No, I don't want to update. And this code gen is the code generation that I talked about, right? Code gen folder has this Java, this JSS TypeScript file. This is .csx file. That means it's a C# code generation template file. This is the file I was talking about. This is created by David Lee. You have other files here which you can use. See, these are the other files which are also supported. You can also generate a model using this. Every file has a different purpose. So I'm not sure about all the purpose of this file, but these are the same CSS file. You can use them to generate the code. For our demo purpose, because I want to demo that, okay, how can you generate those particular template and convert it into props dynamically? I have used this JSS TypeScript file. All credit goes to Mr. David to generate this CSX file. And then you have leprechaun.config. Leprechaun.config is also downloadable. You can just go and copy it from here. It must be somewhere here with me, which from where I downloaded. Yeah, this is the leprechaun.config, right? So I just copied the same file and dumped it here on my folder structure, right? So that's what you see. Yeah, so that's what you see, leprechaun.config. And then I have sitecode.json file as well. Sitecode.json, because Leprechaun has dependency to that file. It doesn't have any dependency with Sitecore or your CLI or anything, but it has some instruction into it. So if you see this, there is only hardly 2 to 3 things that you need, but the configuration part is most important. So what we will do is first I will show you this leprechaun.config file and what instruction does it contain, right? So if I open this,
Sharing and start sharing the screen.
problem.
That has worked for me in the past.
Let me do that. I'll just stop sharing and start sharing. Okay, team.
Teams is the my
I think this is the placeholder image they have put until you get the final. Yeah. So this is the leprechaun.config. This is absolutely copy from where I have taken this. I have changed what I have changed. I will show you, but what the purpose of saying is that you can just dump it in your repo and start configuring. So what is the first configuration that I will do? What I will do is the module.json file. Now this is the path where your module.json file are lying. If I again go to the structure, my module.json files are here. So I have one feature folder, then I have my module.json file. So you have to instruct leprechaun config to say that, hey, on this file, there are my JSON files, module.json files. That is the first configuration that you should know. And very important part of the leprechaun. The second configuration that you do is line number 53, the configuration name. Now this configuration name says that out of all the module.json file, which module file has this configuration name? I will target to generate model for that. Otherwise, I'll skip everything. So now where is it? So what I will go here. I will show you this file. So up till now, those who have configured the Sitecore CLI, we only configure the include and exclude path and stuff, right? Now you will see some additional instruction which is Leprechaun specific. So if I open this, you see this is a standard file, but I also have some configuration related to Leprechaun here as well.
But both for mission model, but not for microservices.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you see here in the standard module file, there is an instruction to Leprechaun saying, hey, target this configuration. So this extend line number 24 should match exactly with. Where is the configuration? Yeah. Should match with this configuration name. If you have done mistake, then you will be in the endless loop finding out, why it is not able to do things which it should do. This is where you should see that, this should absolutely match. The third part, the important part is the code generation module file. So you are telling Leprechaun that, okay, once you are able to generate the file, generate it on this path. This is the output directory. Now config directory is something your current present working directory. Now, if you remember, there is a sitecode.json path file was there. Why it was there? Because this config directory instruction is coming from there. That's why you need it. Otherwise, you don't need it. So this config directory means where you are working. So this is my working directory. From here, generate the code, use this particular code generation template and output this into this particular .generated folder. And the name should be layer.module. So that means either feature, foundation, or project, and then .module means my module that I created, right? And third and very important part of this configuration is this template predicate. What you are targeting is that the name templates is that because you already have serialized your YAML files, right? So what you are instructing at that because the generated YAML files doesn't have this structure, sitecore templates, right? So what it does is it says, hey, these are the sitecore and templates, but find this particular pattern in my module.json file. So now if I go here again in my JSON file, this is the name that it tries to get the layer and module from. So this feature is my layer, and this switchcon is my physical folder under which my YAML file is lying, and that's the module, right? Because initially you did sitecore serialization, and it read your module and created a folder as per that. So you have to instruct here that if you are using helix pattern, that is layer.module, my layer is feature and my module is switchcon. So if I go to the folder structure and if I see here, see feature, serialization, templates, and it has a switchcon module. So that's what I'm instructing there. If you miss this configuration, it will run the Leprechaun, but it will say I was not able to generate any model, and then you end up loop again starts. Note it very carefully. These are the things if you do, Leprechaun will never give you error. It will always work. So this is the only configuration you should be worrying about. Everything else will, remain as is. And then, so now I will go on my command prompt. And then what I will do is, so now I will run this command. This is the second command in the life cycle that you will run, right? One was install, maybe uninstall and update. And the second one is this to generate the command. Now the same command will be configured in your build event. That I'll show you later. But this is I'm testing that, hey, if my configuration is fine and if I run this, what happens? So it started with the Leprechaun. If you now remember the flow chart, it read the configuration, it read the JSON, it read the instruction inside the JSON file, module JSON file, and then it outputted the file from the code generation that I provided in CodeGen. Now what it comes up with that, hey, I was able to generate one template on this path. Now let's go to this folder and see what it generated. Right, so this is the layer.module.model.ts it generated. Now, because it was a TypeScript code generator that I used, right? In the code gen folder, I had that CSX file using which it generated. And then what it generated is this particular class. And it was generated automatically because we are not going to change anything in this. But I had a simple hero banner data template. Inside it, I had a background image, CT and description and title field. And as you see, now this is start looking familiar, right? This is something that a TypeScript or a props code. So now, because the class is generated, I'm good to use that in my app. So what I'll just quickly show you in the app is that this is my hero banner, right? This is currently running in the connected mode. What I will do is, let me see if I have that open. Localhost 3000. Yeah. So this is the simple banner component that I have created. I'm not going into the presentation detail and because it's not a scope, but basically it's headless rendering. It is targeting one data template. Using that data source, I have one React component called hero banner. If you see here, hero banner, it is outputting this particular component, right? But if you see here, sorry, the lag. Yeah. If you see here, these fields are hard coded, right? Because up till now, we only knew that this is how to define props, right? Fields of string, and this is hard coded. But now, because now I have generated a Leprechaun model, what I will do is, how can I refer this particular, how can I remove this particular dependency, right? And I can still use the Leprechaun model. So what I'll do is, because now you remember this path where we generated the model. So what I'm doing is I'm importing as a type that this is the type where my instruction is there. So we opened that model and we saw that there were some props. Now I want to make use of it. So I'm importing as a type. Then what I'll do is I'll export. I'll take this into this Leprechaun field variables. Now if the moment I hover over it, if you see this, it is already started giving me the feeling that now my old props are there. I just need to use them, right? So instead of promo props, which I had hard coded, I can just use this fields directly. Right. So as you can see, everything is out of the box. I didn't change anything. I just removed my hard coded props and I used the code generated from Leprechaun and then I save it. And then my app should still work out of the box. So if I hit this, I'm still able to see that. So that means we started with the hard-coded configuration. We configure Leprechaun so that it generates model and specific stuff for us. We converted our TSX file to get the configuration or the read from the model. And now the props are very loosely coupled. Now, if I change something in the template, right, I don't need to go and do anything in here because my code will be generated. Now it will have a different instruction. So it is very easy to maintain, right? And front-end friendly. So I think that was the only thing, the two most important thing I would suggest is the configuration that I mentioned, right? That if you configure it properly, I think everything will just work just fine. I'm going to put this in the detailed documentation because I have everything scattered. All the learnings that I had and errors that I had in scattered way, but I'll put everything. Of course, I'll share PPT as well, so you have it. But that was the, I think, purpose of today's session. What is Leprechaun, how it works, and a small demo, how you can configure it with your JSON files. One more thing I would like to show you is I only showed you this particular empty folder, right? The purpose was so that you see the bare minimum things required for Leprechaun. Now in the real actual project, it will look something like this. So I have created one more app yesterday, which is this. And now if you see this, all the folders are clubbed, right? So I have this config, we saw that, right? I have this code gen, we saw that. I have this SRC. Now it has all the detail of my front end app as well as my generated folder as well, right? And then I have my Leprechaun config and I have my Sitecore config all on the same level. So this is when you see the actual project, you will get to know straight away that, oh, this is a Leprechaun, and you know where to look for configuration and where to look for certain things, which you want to look for. So yeah, that is it from my side. Before we jump into any question answer or anything, anybody wants to add anything, because our front end team is also consuming this. We are from back end also, a lot of people are using it. So if anybody wants to add anything on top of what I showed and explained, feel free to talk about that, and then probably we can move for the question answer or anything. Khushbu, do you have Khushbu?
Hello. Am
Yeah.
I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, you covered all the topics related to Leprechaun. So good demo. It was good understanding.
Cool. Anybody, AB?
Yeah, it is covered.
Okay, cool. Yeah, anybody, Jatin or JP or Jignesh? From front end perspective, anybody would like to say anything, how generally we work, or any instruction or anything, any age case or special case which I missed? All good?
Yes,
Cool. Okay. Any question, anything, any confusion? All clear? Yeah.
So, like for CLI, right, one person can install in a team and everybody else can just restore and do the things. Is Leprechaun similar to
Same.
like so?
Same.
Basically, let's consider a flow that we first install CLI. We make sure that YML files are generated with those modules and everything, and then during the project setup itself, we configure Leprechaun, install it into the tool manifest and
Correct.
do all the configurations. And then whenever any other developers in the team just do projects Sitecore restore, CLI as well as Leprechaun both will be configured.
Configuration. Same. There are two ways to work on this. So generally it is said that you don't need to commit the models generated by Leprechaun, because your YAML files are already serialized, right? Now consider that I'm a developer. Then I serialized my Sitecore items onto my disk. I'm going to commit that because that needs to be committed, right? But the prerequisite is front end team also needs to run that .NET command to be able to, because now they will also have the same file on the disk, YAML file, and then Leprechaun model will automatically get generated on the disk as well, and then they can start using it. Same will happen on the server as well. But just to avoid that dependency, what we do is we also check in those model as well, so that they get it ready-made. We just run at the build time, model gets generated, and we check them in.
So does that mean that when the npm start is done for the React app, before that Leprechaun command has to be run so that the model is generated, or is it generally taken care during the start of it? That it
We
generates.
can configure it build event.
Yeah, it's either on the build event. I will let me show you. I think that
Workstation developer workstation.
so developer. So if you talk about the Docker setup, right? So Docker setup, you can configure we haven't configured, but you can also configure Leprechaun, because what happens is when you're setting up the machine at that time, you don't have things to serialize, right?
Right.
So for that, you don't also need to run Leprechaun. The moment you start serializing your persisting item on the disk, at that time that configuration needs to be done. So you can put the configuration you can put in the repo itself, but it will not do anything until something to serialize.
For the people like multiple templates using same types or same feeds.
Yeah.
So they're converting or generating their model. If you have that one example, just showcase how that built in Leprechaun file and how we are using as part of front end.
Okay. I don't have that actually. Let me find it out. If I have something in the digital
Not
report.
now, then maybe later. Because those will be like cases we are
Yeah.
facing during 30 days.
So this is the serialization. This is the future. Yeah, I need to check that. So what Jignesh is saying is that some real life example where there is a template inheritance, and then how front end people are actually using and use those use cases. But what I will do is I will take this as a note, and then probably I'll share it with the larger team in our group, saying, hey, this is how it, because it's not a part of my demo, so I might need to kind of juggle around and see where it is. So, but yeah, good case. I'll take this as a note to me.
That is because a lot of components having some basic base template and some of the component specific fields. We need to extend that in front end application as well.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, if no more question, then I think we can. Yeah. Yeah. So for Unicorn, I have never worked with Unicorn, frankly, so I have no idea about it. Yeah. If anybody has any input to that, how it can be, work with Unicorn.
I believe Unicorn also generates YML.
So
It generates YAML files, but it doesn't have module.json files, which Leprechaun is referring to. So how Leprechaun will connect with that YAML files?
Same, you have module.json specific only to Leprechaun.
But modular JSON we create with respect to sitecode CLI. That configuration will be there.
Well, because we were looking at sitecode CLI, we thought that it is with respect to that, right? But if we really look at it, modular.json is not directly linked to CLI. It is used by CLI. It is also used by Lapid. So, for example, with Unicorn, we generate those files onto the disk, which are YML files. Okay, and then that particular.
That can be the case, but we don't know how Leprechaun has inner configuration. That's how it is.
So on Leprechaun side, there is a specific use case given for Unicorn. I'll share that. It is specifically for how to work with Unicorn and Leprechaun. Maybe it would be good to go through that.
And it will not work with TDS, I think.
Yeah, it will not work with TTS.
Another question is when we run Leprechaun, it will override all the generated modules and models.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So if you change the name, then the old file will remain there. It will not delete anything. But if you have the same name, then it will keep on creating the new there on the same file.
That particular thing, we have foundation things which we don't want to change every time, or project things which we don't want to change every time.
Yeah. So what you do is you could create two configuration file, or like two leprechaun.config. One will remain stable, so there won't be any change. So in that what instruction that you do is you generate the output file on this directory, and then the name or the extents, the configuration name that we provide, right? Out of all the JSON file, it will only target those particular things. So those foundation model you will always keep there, and then you have another Leprechaun config, which is variable, which will keep on changing. So you have no. You have to configure two files because the instruction are different for different JSON file. That's why. Thank you. I think we are almost right about time. Everybody will get 2 minutes for a coffee or tea before we start our day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.